The Second Amendment to our federal Constitution recognizes that we have a God-given right to keep and bear arms to defend ourselves, our families, neighbors, our city, town, and state against all enemies, both foreign and domestic, and that this right is to be free from any interference whatsoever from the federal government. The framers were all for an armed American people because they understood that arms are our ultimate defense in the event the federal government oversteps its bounds. The father of our Constitution, James Madison, writes in the second half of the Federalist Paper number 46, quote, "The reason the citizens, the militia, are armed is to defend ourselves, our families, our neighborhoods, communities, and states from an overreaching tyrannical federal government," end of quote. Since the establishment of our constitutional republic, something has drastically changed in the United States, and that change has been for the worse ever since the rise of the progressives, which is just another name for socialists and communists, within our government. Starting around 1913. Since then, they have been working overtime to bring down our constitutional republic, do away with capitalism, and with each passing year, they keep ramping up their attacks and tactics against our freedoms, and they could care less who they have to hurt or how. Yes, something has drastically changed in America. Something is seriously wrong, and it is dark, dangerous, and evil. And we have brought it upon ourselves by turning away from God. And it involves some of the top departments within our own government. On the Tucker Carlson show on the Fox News channel last week, Tucker kept saying that in connection to the Las Vegas massacre, there is something not quite right in America today. Something is seriously wrong because we never had this sort of thing when I was growing up. Well, I'm 72 years old, and I can honestly say that Tucker is correct. There is something very, very wrong, and I have a gnawing feeling that I know what it is. And I would like to lay it out for you. Call me a conspiracy theorist nutcase, but I don't think I'm very far off from the truth. I am not claiming that the following, which I am about to present, is fact. I am simply stating what my heart and soul are telling me. And you folks are free to draw your own conclusions. Now, under the Obama administration, there were 162 mass murders. Now, think back to 2007 when Obama was first campaigning for the office of president. He kept telling us that he was a big supporter of the Second Amendment. Yet it wasn't very long after he was elected that he started pushing for gun control. When it didn't pass in Congress, Obama had his first Attorney General, Eric Holder, instigate a program called Fast and Furious on October 31st, 2009. The program that also involved the ATF was to allow illegal guns to enter Mexico, where they were used by the drug cartels to murder innocent Mexican men, women, and children, and to kill one of our own border agents. Following that, Obama and the leftists once again tried to push gun control, despite the fact that Congress has no constitutional right or power to do so. When that failed, on March 29, 2009, in Carthage, North Carolina, Robert Stewart, age 45, opened fire at a nursing home where his estranged wife worked, killing 8 and injuring 3 before he was shot and arrested by police officers. This was followed by another push for passage of gun control legislation, which also failed. This was followed on April 3, 2009, by Jiverly Long, 41, open firing at an American Civic Association Center for Immigrants, killing 14 and wounding 4 before committing suicide. Once again, Obama and the leftists tried again to push gun control, which again failed. This was followed up by another mass shooting on November 5, 2009 at Fort Hood, Texas, where Army psychiatrist Nadal Malik Hassan, 39, opened fire on an Army base in an attack linked to Islamist extremism, killing 13 and wounding 30. Hassan was injured during the attack and later arrested. On and on it goes. And with each push by Obama and the leftists to pass unconstitutional gun control legislation, their failures were followed by mass shootings, which increased in the number of innocent people being killed or maimed. Obama is now out of office, but the leftists are still pushing for gun control. And still, each time they are defeated, their defeat is followed by a new mass shooting, growing in the number of casualties, with the latest occurring on October 1st, 2017, at the Las Vegas, Nevada Strip, where Stephen Craig Paddock, age 64, rained down from a resort hotel a hail of bullets from automatic rifles onto a crowd of attendees at a country music concert, killing 58 plus and wounding 527 plus, making it the worst mass shooting in the history of the United States. Why is this? And why have the number of victims steadily increased? To get an idea, we have to go back to all of the mass school shootings and look at the backgrounds of the shooters involved. And you will find that every one of the shooters were or have been on psychotropic drugs such as Ritalin. Also, the same holds true for many of the adult shooters. In all of the pictures of these shooters, they had the appearance of being spaced out. Not really with it. In other words, they look like they were on drugs. Could it be possible that all of these teen shooters, as well as the adult shooters involved in other mass shootings, be under some sort of mind control? And is it possible that our own government, under the CIA, is responsible? It is my personal belief that the answer is yes. I fully believe that a shadow government is pushing the mass shootings in an attempt to get the American citizens mad enough to demand the end of the Second Amendment. So why do I believe this? Because, yes, there is something that is just not right in the United States today. Just look at how the alt-left is pushing to do away with our present constitutional form of government. Also, anyone who has a brain and has paid attention to what has been going on covertly in the deepest recesses of the shadow government in Washington, D.C., knows about the CIA program known as MK Ultra. So what is MK Ultra? It is a top secret CIA project in which the agency conducts hundreds of clandestine experiments, sometimes on unwitting U.S. citizens, to assess the potential use of LSD and other drugs such as Ritalin and other psychotropic drugs for mind control, information gathering, and psychological torture. The CIA claims that this program was shut down in 1973, but I and many others believe it is still ongoing in some form. The details of illicit program didn't become public until 1975 during a congressional investigation into widespread illegal CIA activities within the United States and around the world. It was the CIA's obsession with brain warfare that led to horrifying human experiments. On April 10, 1953, after his appointment as director of the CIA, Allen Dulles gave a speech to a gathering of Princeton alumni. Dulles had just become the first civilian director of an agency growing more powerful by the day, and the speech provided an early glimpse into his priorities for the CIA. Dulles said, quote, "In the past few years, we have been accustomed to hearing much about the battle for men's minds, the war of ideologies." He went on to say, "I wonder, however, whether we clearly perceive the magnitude of the problem, whether we realize how sinister the battle for men's minds has become in Soviet hands. We might call it, in its new form, brain warfare." End of quote. 3 days after this speech, decrying Soviet tactics, Dulles approved the beginning of MK Ultra, a top-secret CIA program for covert use of biological and chemical materials. American values made for good rhetoric, but Dulles had far grander plans for the agency's Cold War propaganda. MK Ultra's mind control experiments generally centered around behavior modification via electroshock therapy, hypnosis, polygraphs, radiation, and a variety of drugs, toxins, and chemicals. These experiments relied on a range of test subjects, some who freely volunteered, some who volunteered under coercion, and some who had absolutely no idea they were involved in a sweeping defense research program. From mentally impaired boys at a state school, to American soldiers, to sexual psychopaths at a state hospital, MK Ultra's programs often preyed on the most vulnerable members of society. The CIA considered prisoners especially good subjects, as they were willing to give consent in exchange for extra recreation time or commuted sentences. With the advent of MK Ultra, the government's interest in LSD shifted from a defensive to an offensive orientation. CIA officials noted that LSD could be potentially useful in gaining control of bodies, whether they were willing or not. The CIA envisioned applications that ranged from removing people from Europe in the case of a Soviet attack to enabling assassinations of enemy leaders. On November 18, 1953, a group of 10 scientists met at a cabin located deep in a forest of Maryland. After extended discussions, the participants agreed that to truly understand the value of the drug, an unwitting experiment would be desirable. Knowing this, can we honestly believe that the mind control program known as MK Ultra, run covertly by the CIA, has been shut down? I, for one, find that hard to believe. With all of the turmoil going on in our country today, especially since the unconstitutional election of Barack Obama as president that has led to the disintegration of race relations in America and the relations between the police and citizens, and with all the dumbing down of America's children that is being carried out in our schools. It is an undeniable fact that everything possible is being done to bring down the United States, and there is someone or something very powerful pulling the strings behind the scenes. Whoever or whatever that power is, Americans need to wake up before it's too late, because we are seeing assaults on all of our freedoms. Thank you for joining me, and may the good Lord bless you and keep you and give you a safe and prosperous night and tomorrow.